Welcome, dear readers, to Cover My Ass, where baffling books are reviewed but not read by yours truly. My name is Kagi.
And I'm Kay, and I'm wondering why we're whispering.
Okay, it's
And
very
remember, we only judge a book by its cover.
good that you finished it. Okay, so this is going to be a bit of a tricky recording, but if you come up with me, Kay, look through these bookshelves. I'm going to part the books just slightly.
It's the back of a bookshelf.
The back of the bookshelf is not the full height of the bookshelf.
Sorry,
Play in the space. We can peek through and see I have discovered... Okay, so to catch the readers up on the unnecessary lore and to leave you in a bit of suspense of what we're looking at, I've been exploring the mysteries of your library on a sort of suicidal velocipede that we call the Threegle 3. And I've been searching for the breeding grounds of the Velociraptors.
Yes.
And no success yet. There was some weird shit with raccoons there for a while.
Yes.
Tristan, I think they were called.
Yes.
But now I've made a discovery. It's a creature that I've never seen before, but I've named it a hebdromedary, because if you look, like, it sort of looks like it's clearly mammalian, it's furry, and it has 7 humps.
It sounds like any furry convention to me, but...
Ooh, that's very specific. But no, like, arms or legs or a head or a front or a back. Like, it's just this...
7. It kind of looks a bit like a... I don't know.
Yeah, it's undulating.
Is it a tribble?
Oh,
I hope not. I
The
don't have any radioactive elements here.
the wonderful creatures from Star Trek, the original series.
Yes.
But isn't it a majestic creature? I wonder what it's doing. Because it just seems to be... Oh, look, there's 2 of them. They just seem to be sort of wobbling around.
Maybe they're mating? I don't know. I don't think I've seen these. Unless these could be carpet monsters.
Carpet monsters? What are those?
Well, they're kind of like what carpets become when they go bad.
That's not a thing.
Oh,
Okay,
that's what you
that's
think.
not Is that okay? So is that a thing specific to your library?
Well-
then tell me about these carpet monsters. Because if that's what carpet monsters look like, but I don't know. Maybe I want to be friends with
I
one.
think when you spill enough food on a carpet, then eventually it becomes sentient and it becomes a carpet monster. And this could
That
be
is
one
how
of those.
that works.
Yes.
I mean, it works with pants as well.
Oh, pants? I've never seen that happen. But
Oh, then you haven't spilled enough coffee on your pants.
I guess
have you?
I don't drink coffees.
Oh, what a remarkable that we're 59 weeks in to my residence. Is that what we're saying?
Let's go with that.
Yeah, my residence in your magical library, and I'm still discovering new things.
Are you going to start a bestiary, maybe?
You know what? I probably already have. I mean, I've been keeping my little journal.
Oh, yes.
I could probably fill that out with. Oh, that's a great idea. Now, if only I could draw. We'll figure
That's
something
going to be
out.
hard, yes.
Maybe our readers at home will help me. Maybe we can get some fan art of the hebdromedary.
Oh.
A 7-humped, headless, legless creature.
Or the 45 caliber bookworm.
Whatever your crazy little imagination can come up with. And you can share that with us if you're interested at covermyasscast@twitter.com, or you can send it to us directly to covermyasscast@gmail.com. And for anything else, we just generally love to hear from you.
And talking about hearing of things, no, I just guess that's not a very good segue. No,
That's not a candidate
for me.
for the award. But
Let's talk about this week's book anyway.
I wonder if there's a Razzie for segues.
Ooh.
You know, the Raspberry Award. What would be
The straight way, the
bad
causeway,
segue.
the electrical fault segue.
Oh, what do you call a phrase that makes no sense? Non sequitur.
Non sequitur, yes.
Okay, so what would be a prize for a non sequitur?
Oh.
For a really good, because hey, a really bad segue is kind of an okay non sequitur, isn't it?
It depends on what you're going for. I mean, non sequiturs can be funny, I suppose.
You can do it like the Soviet space program and say afterwards which one you were going for.
Oh, that sounds like a good plan, yes.
Yeah.
You shoot and whatever you hit, you call the target. Yeah, that's... Anyway, this week's book is by Michael Delving, sorry.
Michael Delving, yes.
The Devil Finds Work.
Now there's a title.
It's a lovely cover too. What we can see is a nubile lady. Yes, I would call her nubile, dressed in
she's sort of supine.
tatters, and a supposedly handsomely bearded man in a white gown. At least maybe has a bit of a Jesus complex. All those
a little bit, yeah. I noticed that as well. And he's doing the Y from YMCA with his arms. So presumably there's a construction worker and a Native American racist stereotype just off screen.
Oh, and a police officer. Don't forget the police officer.
Yeah.
And yes, there's an altar with
some fun
figures.
sculptures on it.
Yes, and a skull, which I think is actually a genuine skull, not a sculpture.
Isn't it amazing how often those are included in like classical architecture
Skulls.
and art? Yeah, isn't there a word for like not cathedrals, but the little chapels that have lots of bone-based artwork with actual bones? What's it called? Ossuary, isn't it?
Well, for a start,
From the Latin os for bone.
You need like somewhere to put the bones after you've done. What do you call it? What's the word? Geruimd in English?
Exhume.
No, not really. Exhume is merely taking out of the grave. It's not specifically the practice of clearing out a grave.
That's not very common in the rest of the world. Because in the Netherlands, because we don't have a lot of space.
But, well, you have the French catacombs in Paris, which have the bone things, and in Romania, there's whole churches of them. Human bones used in church construction are not exactly uncommon.
The one in Paris was an aspect of necessity. Like 1.3 million people died of the plague there, and they couldn't bury all the bodies, and they couldn't get them out of the city fast enough, and there were religious strictures against cremation.
So presumably they had to be buried and decomposed first, and then get reburied.
No, they were just put down there.
Oh,
they were stacked there by the thousands and thousands. So monks went down there, and they would wear rags with vinegar and burn lots and lots of torches to get rid of the excess methane.
Oh yeah, so they were just like the bodies were just piled on there and left there to decompose in the catacombs.
So that's why they've got the long like network of tunnels, and you'd fill up one tunnel, and then you just sort of break it up,
and then
and move on to the next one. You come back a few years later with
most of the mess will be gone by then, I suppose.
What was really remarkable when we visited there, like aside from just the confrontation with that many human remains, there were two remarkable things. One of them was they hung electric lights so that visitors can go through there, and anywhere where an electric light like shines directly on a bone or whatever, that's where you find like a little plant or some moss.
Oh, okay.
Just that tiny amount of light is enough for life to spring up. Yeah. And the other one was eventually, while these tunnels were being dug, every now and again they'd hit a natural cave, essentially an earth geode.
Yeah.
And then that would be taken as sort of a sign from God, and it was purposed as a little chapel where the monks they had a tough job down there, could chill out and like read the Bible on the pedestal. And
sounds good. And of course, a lovely gold chalice.
Yeah, some candles. I mean,
it's not really a candle; it's more a torch, I think. It looks a bit like one of those Olympic torches.
It's a very stereotypical image that you think of when you think of Satanism, but like all the satanic ritual abuse, SRA is I think the descriptor. Yeah, the satanic panic.
Right.
of the 80s and 90s.
The Dungeons and Dragons will teach your kids how to cast spells and worship the devil or something like that. And I mean, it's like moral panic needs to exist about something.
Certainly in this little town where this book takes place. Can you read us the back cover?
Yes, I will. So, the little town of Big Beaver, Pennsylvania, struggling to rebound after the closure of its electric novelty crucifix factory, is beset by a swarm of turtlenecked espresso-swilling horn-rimmed Satanists drawn in by its authenticity. A conflict of biblical proportions brews between the Dark Prince and their traditional nemesis, the interim chairperson of the Homeowners Association.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whom I would be less favored to go head-to-head with, because, you know what they say, the fights are so vicious because the stakes are so low.
Yeah. I thought it was quite bold that the story begins with the B-plot that is actually not mentioned on the back.
It does kind of refer to the title, but...
Exactly. We see the proprietor of a job placement outfit called Craftwork in Big Beaver, which has seen a bit of a boom since the electric novelty crucifix factory shut down, and a lot of factory-trained laborers and engineers and administrative personnel are looking for something to do.
Yeah, the Central Americans turned out that they can produce neon crucifixes much cheaper than they can in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So everything that was being sold to Mexico and Guatemala is now being produced in Honduras.
Which is a little closer to the idea of like local manufacturing.
Exactly.
Not quite there, but...
At least you don't have to smuggle it across the border. And the
Pennsylvania doesn't seem like a great place for like an electric neon crucifix factory. I get a sort of Protestant vibe out in Pennsylvania. You've got the plain, the Amish people.
Yeah, I was going to say the Pennsylvania Dutch. Mennonites who do allow electricity.
Oh, very good.
And then, of course, you've got Amish electricity, air pressure. You're allowed to run things on pneumatics, but that's great.
Well, I think the predominant religious sects in Pennsylvania are various forms of Protestantism or Reformed Christianity, I want to say. Nothing that really goes for ostentatious displays like glowing crucifixes that play little jingles when you play them.
When you walk by them, and you make the sign of the cross when you're standing in front of them, and there's this little gesture recognition camera which sees that that, and then it like plays a little heavenly hymn to you.
And woe betide you if you go west-east instead of east-west. Ooh.
Well, there was a little bit of a controversy when the sensor got installed backwards. And,
yeah. Leading to a brief skirmish with Mexico, I believe.
Well, there was the leftist and the rightist, and it turned into a bit of a Gulliver-esque travel with...
Is this a thing?
No.
Leftists and... Oh,
no.
Oh, okay. You swept me away in this fantastical imagination sphere that you. Let's just focus on reality.
Yes, let's do that. Back to the book we're reviewing.
Back to the book that we've both read, and we start off with the proprietor of the Craft Work Job Placement Office, a rather surly man, assigning a new, like, have you thought about this career? And he sort of picks a random career out of his hat for this person, which is, have you tried being a stainless steel origamist?
Which is like...
Because I think that's perfect for you.
A stainless steel origamist. I mean, yes, a blacksmith would be like... I mean, they don't really tend to work in stainless steel.
Nor do origamists.
So yes, the craft work man whom we shortly afterwards learn goes by the name of Lou Cypher.
Yes. from the Louisville Ciphers, I believe.
I think so too, yes.
Very good. How long did it take you to sort of figure out what was going on there with Lou Cypher?
It took me a while. I must say, like, embarrassingly, it took me much longer than it wasn't quite blatantly obvious that all the people that were assigned to their jobs were really not really suited to them. Or
not just that, but like that their presence there was an absolute disaster for everyone involved. It was total pandemonium every time. I sort of felt embarrassed how long it took me to realize this, and it reminded me of a comment thread that I saw screen captured once. God, it's back to Kaki and Kay describing the internet on a podcast. Yeah, a comment thread in a Columbo. Do you know the detective series where you always see who did it at the start? A Columbo appreciation group where someone was complaining about how he hated Columbo and that he really liked detective series because you have to sort of figure it out and you
pay attention and watch along.
Yeah, but he thought the Columbo was so poorly written because about 50% of the time he's already figured out who done it before the big reveal at the end.
Right, when in fact at the beginning of this episode you see who it is. Yes,
100% of the time. So I sort of felt like that particular fuck clump.
Ooh, it's very harsh words from you.
It's self-deprecating. That's it's me who is the fuck clump.
Oh, okay, right. Case. Sorry, I thought you were like referring to this person as the fuck clump.
Also, we're a gaggle of fuck clumps, aren't we?
Well, yes. Is that the actual collective noun for fuck clumps?
Oh no, but now we're going to figure one out, aren't we?
I would say it's more like a lubrication of fuck clumps.
A pound of fuck clumps.
Oh, very good. Yes, let's go with that.
Good Lord. We better come up with something better than that, because otherwise that's going to be the title of this episode.
Oh, Pound of Fuck-Clumps. Yeah, well. All right, so, yes, we
move on to the main plot of the book, don't we?
It kind of segues into that, actually, when Lou, at the end of his day, moves towards his new residence. Where we kind of get introduced to the neighborhood. So Lou wanders down from his job center, grumbling about the idiots that he had to, like, find jobs for, and complaining about what a terrible waste of his time and intellect this is, and there should be much better ways for him to make people's lives miserable, which he seems to hate his job quite a lot, and like he seems to delight making people miserable, and like his main complaint is that he can only do it to one person at a time here.
It's so frustrating because he's such a misanthrope.
Yes. He comments about the neighborhood, and this is like this typical, little boxes on the hillside type of neighborhood where he wanders through, where all the grass has to be cut on the same day and in the same pattern.
Measured to the same height that's marked on everyone's...
Measured to the same height. Trash cans are not allowed to be visible from the street after 6 in the evening on trash collection day, which is every other Thursday, except in a leap year when it's every other Wednesday, unless it's a Tuesday or something like that.
Fizbin! One day there will be one person who gets that joke, and this is just for you. This is for you. You're very special.
I need to know it. Fizgig, you mean?
No, Fizbin. Fizbin is a pretend card game that Captain Kirk makes up in an episode of Star Trek. They pretend to be playing this game with incredibly complicated rules.
Okay, so it's kind of like...
Go, Johnny, go.
Go, yes. That one.
So I thought that... I liked how quickly this suburban scene sort of escalated, because not only is this sign about how trash cans may not be visible from the street after 6 p.m. is not just plastered everywhere, but there are even several cars driving around the neighborhood with megaphones and tannoy systems proclaiming this very, very loudly.
And just before he wanders into his rental unit. Most of these places are owned by the homeowners, of course.
Naturally.
But there's a few the few houses which didn't got sold by the development agency, and they're being rented out. And this is, of course, a really big problem in the eyes of Miss Karen the World, who is the head of the interim head of the Homeowners Association.
Yeah.
Who specifically walks up to Lou and tells him that his bin needs to be moved off the street before 6 on trash collection day. When I have to work until 6, I cannot be here. I have to put the bin out on the street when I go to work. And she's like, don't matter, don't care.
Yeah.
That's what it says in the Homeowners Association rules.
And it wouldn't be such a problem if she didn't go around bribing all the neighborhood children to not perform this service for love nor money for anyone, because that's usually the solution, right? You
pay them $1 for
pay them $1 to take my trash in when you come back from school, and there's $1 waiting for you.
Yeah.
But she's already counter bribing the children of the neighborhood, so that absolutely no one can comply with these rules that she herself fights tooth and nail to maintain. Now all the fiercer now that she's the interim chairperson of the Homeowners Association. It's not quite clear what happened to the previous chairperson, is it?
Not at the beginning of the book.
No. This is the point where what is described as the Satanists start to arrive. Satanists is the label that Karen the World obviously immediately brands them with as soon as they start arriving. And despite all her efforts to keep this a community of homeowners, of a responsible, essentially landed gentry, she has not taken into account the power of Airbnb. And they descend on the land of the lofts. These turtlenecked, weird, espresso-swilling, horn-rimmed motherfuckers of indeterminate gender with all these cool... It's millennials, isn't it?
It is millennials. It's
right? That's just what boomers call millennials, Satanists, right?
Like avocado toast eating, espresso-swilling. We've had that one. But,
Avocado-vores.
Ooh.
Oh, no, there's got to be better than that. We'll come up with something.
I like avocado, but why would you spread it on toast when you can make it into guacamole?
Did you like guacamole on toast? What else goes in guacamole?
It depends on how you make it. When I do it, it's like...
What's guaco mean?
I don't know. Mole means sauce.
Sauce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might be like guacamado, avoguac. I have no idea.
Okay.
When I make it...
I sort of figured that out once you started stumbling.
When I make it, it's got tomato, onion, and garlic in it as well, and lime, of course. It's Mexican, of course. There has to be lime in it.
Is that a thing with...
Yes.
Okay.
That's the secret of Mexican food. You put lime on everything, even on limes.
Well... Yeah. Well, having done the traditional tequila shot thing, I'm quite familiar with it.
There you go.
But you put it
on the guacamole, you put it on the salad, you put it on the tacos. Everything just gets a generous helping of lime on it. And not so much the dulce de leche, but
that is. Oh, let me figure this out. That is a milk-based dessert.
Yes.
Hey,
very good.
Yeah, thank you.
I think it's it's made with condensed milk and maybe other milk, and it's one of those cooked things. Yes, it does sound quite nice. It's not just as when you just boil a tin of condensed milk, which is also quite entertaining.
Why? What happens?
Oh, it kind of caramelizes. So you take a tin of condensed milk,
yes,
and you just put it in a pan of water, and you boil it for an hour or so. Just keep it on a simmer. Mm-hmm. And if you then open it up, it's like the inside is turned caramel brown.
Wow.
Instead.
How does it taste?
Milky caramelly type thing.
Is there additional sugar in it, or
is that sweetened condensed milk?
Ah, there you go.
A housemate of mine once made it. I can't remember what we did with it other than taste it.
And then toss it out.
She was quite frugal, so I don't think there would have been much tossing out of foodstuffs.
Wow, was she an alchemist?
She was in chemistry, so.
Okay, well, that's basically the same thing.
Yeah.
So these snake people, which I believe is also a term for millennials.
I've never heard that one before.
Yeah, I saw a Chrome plugin for the browser that when you install that, it replaces the word millennial on any web page that you see with snake people.
Oh, okay.
Snake people are killing the magazine industry. We should have one for Satanists. Satanists are killing the magazine industry. Oh, Satanists aren't having enough babies.
The millennials moving in. They the Satanists, not the millennials.
Yeah. Who introduce themselves very confusingly. I mean,
Teller
and Taylor, and as we remember, Tyler.
Yes.
And Tally and Ty. Sorry, and Tay.
Tay.
These are the ones who show up at the Homeowners Association demanding to be let in because they're Airbnb-ing exclusive ownership of an owned house.
Karen tries to ban them, but they have the documents that say that they are the proxy of the homeowner and that they are allowed to vote in the meeting.
Which Karen...
I mean, she goes into the statutes and she grabs the secretary by the scruff. This is the guy by the name of Tom Collins.
Oh, yeah. I like him.
He's a bit of a lush, but, he's...
I'm quite fond of Tom Collins.
Well, yes, I thought you were.
He made a very good impression.
He's a bit old-fashioned, but...
Yeah. Cheers you up in the morning. That sounds good, Tom Collins.
It's a real pick you up, yes.
Yeah.
And they make sure that all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted in the proxies. But it turns out that, yes, they are apparently all allowed to be at the bi-weekly Homeowners Association meeting. Because, yes, the meetings are held usually by Karen and Tom, and nobody shows up. And they've long bypassed the quorum laws. And so they can just pretty much hammer up every piece of legislation change that they want through.
Which they do at length and frequency, replacing those signs outside as often as they can.
Yes.
Drunk with power.
Yes. Lou especially gets the brunt of this thing when he turns up in basically I don't know why, but he has a limousine, so a big stretch limousine, and he parks there. So the first thing that Karen and Tom do is they ban cars over a certain length. But then one of the other residents, Mo Lester, buys himself an RV, which for some reason has free candy written on the side, but that's not entirely...
blacked out windows. I thought that was a very weird character.
And that car is too long as well. So then they go we don't ban cars over a certain length. They just keep changing.
It's a certain height to length ratio.
They basically keep changing the rules, and rather than make a no limos rule, they just keep changing the rules and to make sure that Lou's car is still banned, but all the other ones are not.
If only this took place in Peru. I've told you about this before. The Peruvian native language Quechua has the concept of clusivity, which is a linguistic feature that not a lot of languages have, but that means whether or not the person that you're speaking to is included. So you have two forms of we, we and you
are going to the pub, or we and not you are going to the pub.
Yeah, and you can make it very clear, and you don't have to resort to circumscribing all of these bizarre rules that Tom and Karen keep coming up with in order to make sure that Lou Cypher is right in the middle of that little
Venn diagram.
So back to work he goes, our Lou Cypher, grumbling worse than ever, and is beset by these Satanists who have arrived and who intend to put their idle hands to work while they're there. And they want to find something to do. But of course, they don't want to go into the service industry or flip burgers or wherever anyone is.
The barista jobs are snapped up like that.
Exactly.
That's done immediately. And and the bistros, everything turns vegan, and Karen then tries to pass a law that a certain minimum number of meat elements have to be put on the menu and that they have to be on top of everything.
A certain number of animal deaths are required in order to maintain your...
Which Lou kind of agrees with. I mean, he seems to be
one doesn't seem to bother him.
No, he seems to be fairly happy with that.
But so the rest of these snake people start piling in because they discover this place called Craft Work. Mm-hmm. Now, for a millennial, that's where we want to be. They're imagining that this is the Etsy of job placements, and they are not wrong because they, in rapid order, get...
It's all done very amateuristically, so yeah, I'm sorry. I'm being uncharitable towards Etsy, but I've bought some very lovely items from Etsy, so...
I'm sure a lot of people have. Yes. Lou Cypher performs his dark work on these newly arrived Satanists and pairs them up with jobs like a long-form unicyclist and just reaching into his hat and assigns Teller as his indentured influencer.
Yeah, he seems to have this endless font of useless jobs. And
isn't it amazing?
It is. It's
So Tally becomes an amateur close-up tradition.
Tragician.
Yeah, that one was confusing.
Yeah.
Ty becomes an escape room architect, and Tay becomes an extreme whalebonologist. A fun... Oh, yeah, and then Tyler, of course, becomes the stay-at-home swordsmith.
I mean...
Now, that's the only one that goes horribly wrong.
A good sword is needed at some point, so it does kind of work out in the end.
Yes, but an indoor kiln...
True, and again, Karen has something to say about that.
So that's a bit of a downer, but this should have been the norm. All of these job placements should have been incredible disaster for everyone involved. And to Lou's great surprise, they take to these jobs like
and it
fish
starts
to water.
Working out.
Yeah.
Yes, he seems to.
Suddenly, we have excellent escape rooms, and our influencer can sway public opinion and get even the most local demands of the primary school that needs new pens can get that trending on Twitter.
Even the whalebonologist, it's when there's a sudden find of what are they called again? Old-fashioned corsets. which needs to be.
Yes.
There's and it gets like sorted, all the stuff which is and isn't legal according to the latest regulation of hunting endangered species, and it all gets sorted out fine. It's like amazing.
And it turns out that there's a big market for amateur close-up tragics,
which is really quite get that. It's like
I guess it's sort of a form like cathartic misery that you can share with someone.
Like a town crier, someone who's just like wandering around and like
that's not what a
moping
that's
publicly.
that's not what a town crier is. Do you think that's just someone who walks around weeping and is paid for it?
Well, no, but I'm just more thinking of like someone performing a public function. In the case of a town crier, it's spreading the news.
The Romans did have that. They would hire wailers.
Oh yeah,
not whalebone wailers, but they would hire women to wail with sorrow.
Oh, it's still not unusual
during a funeral. Oh, that's true.
Still, in certain Middle Eastern cultures, that still happens. And I mean, you'd only have to see what happened after. Was it Kim Jong-il? Kim Jong-il died. Yeah. And I suppose those weren't paid for it. I think a lot of that.
No, but you see the people on like during the hours of mourning, like lashing themselves, trying to
pulling their hair out, and like I guess a lot of that is just like trying to like not to be like told out to the
authoritarian regime, which is almost as bad as the Homeowners Association.
I was going to say the Stasi, but like the Stasi was never that intimate.
So Lou is surprised not only that suddenly he's matching people up with careers that not only suit their abilities very well, but also make them integrate into the community and make them contribute in a way that he's never seen happening in Big Beaver before.
No. Well, I mean, he's new to Big Beaver as well, as we learn a little bit later in the book.
He rolled in his limousine quite recently.
It really comes to head with Karen when Lou's pet, a literal hellcat, as it turns out, literal, not like figurative literal, but literal, glowing red eyes, and 3-inch long fangs and burning tuft at the end of its tail.
Yeah, and a meow like the wailing of 1,000 burning ships.
And a growl
wrecks.
Like limestone scratching over
chalkboard,
brine or something like that.
Over
brimstone.
A grave.
Yes.
What's weird is that everyone describes it equally as accurately as we just did right now.
When Karen pushes a rule of no cats over 15 pounds, because owning a fat cat is cruel. So we get a final showdown when one of the original residents of the neighborhood shows up at the craft work, Anita Jobs.
Anita Jobs. What a refreshing face she was.
She was. And I think she's the lady on the altar that we see there.
I think so.
When Lou takes her to the back room and like performs his magic, I guess, or his like he does his consultancy, I suppose. And she comes out looking a little bit more disheveled than she was when she went in. She's got
all these new cool rags.
Yes, it's the remnants of the official polo shirt that Karen makes every week. Because if you have a garage sale, you have to wear a polo shirt and khaki pants.
My namesake is being used by a Karen. What an absolute nightmare world this Big Beaver, and it would have remained so if it weren't for these wonderful Satanists descending and bringing some life to a moribund community. Thanks to the
Lord Satan himself, as it turns out.
Yes.
Lou is like literally being ousted from his position as the Lord of Hell because he was failing to meet quotas 3 years running.
Yeah.
And he was being punished by put into this job at Craftwork in this little community.
And where to his, at first, great dismay, he discovers that he actually has a knack for setting people on the right path for them in a much more direct way than the fates or the universe or God.
I guess, I mean, that is technically the whole thing about hell. You are redeemed there until you have paid for your sins and then allowed back into heaven.
Redeeming is not the word.
So what is it called then? Like when you have like paid your debts, you've been punished, and like doesn't redemption follow punishment?
I think redemption does. Wow, we're digging into the theology pretty deeply.
Yeah.
Let's not forget, Lucifer started off as an angel.
True.
I mean, we call him the devil, but he's Lucifer, the light bringer.
Yes.
He did start off as an angel who just had the temerity to speak up against, I guess from his perspective, the
injustice,
the permanent chairperson of the
Homeowners Association.
World Owners Association.
Yes.
So he has one more trick up his sleeve, using his incredible power of finding people jobs that they're perfectly suited for. Mm-hmm. He works his magic on Karen de World.
Yes.
And in what some people might describe as the best job placement that has ever been performed on Earth, because she does wake up in the fiery plains where she belongs as the new Queen of Hell.
Yes.
Hell has never had a more micromanaging,
tormentor,
misery-inducing tormentor than Karen. She is in the exact place where she wants to be, and suddenly everyone everyone in this little world of Big Beaver and the great below.
She has every care in the world at that point.
is satisfied, and what a bizarre way to arrive at a happy ending for a
Yes,
book.
I think it's a lovely introspective story.
I do
and
too.
yeah.
So how are we going to rate this book?
Well, easy. How many planes does hell have? Was it
the
seven?
planes of-
Was it 7 or 8 or 9?
The Circles of Hell.
Circles
It
of Hell?
depends. I mean, the Circles of Hell were kind of made up
By what's his face?
not Dante Alighieri.
It was Dante. It was Dante. Dante's Hell. Yes.
Dante's Inferno.
Yeah, it's the
I keep
one.
forgetting because he shows up. No, he doesn't show up. It's Virgil that shows up in there.
And the last plane of hell was the ones who betrayers, I believe, was the deepest plane of hell. Which
I've never read it,
people who betray,
and I won't pretend to have read it
No.
on the podcast.
No, well, there's like paintings of it. I think it's 7 circles of hell, if I recall correctly.
Okay, so out of 7,
7.
very appropriate with the it's back, the hebdomadary. So yes, out of 7 circles of hell or 7 humps on a hebdomadary.
I'll give it 6 out of 7 lumps.
All right, so a hexomadary out of the 7 circles of hell.
So maybe we flatten one of them.
Don't flatten one of them. Okay, so I'm doing a job placement on myself.
Okay.
So I'm giving myself an additional role. Aside from being your junior librarian,
Right.
I'm now also going to be a naturalist
Well,
of your biology.
that's very good. You can start by cleaning up after them, because I think that one left a mess.
That's for Tristan to do. We figured that out in the Unnecessary Lore. Do you remember?
Right,
it's
yeah.
the raccoons who... Oh, my God. So it's 3 raccoons
They have-
in trench coat.
Well, that's the representatives that we've seen. I'm sure there have to be more of them.
And then we've been misidentifying them as gnomes, and they've been paid. out
Yes,
of your
and I've noticed
ledger.
that the fees have gone up recently. So things have been happening in the library that require more expenses on their part. I'm not looking at you, but I'm looking at you.
Well, okay. So, I understand that you're... I really don't have anything for that. Yeah, no, it's a fair call. It's a fair, yeah. What has changed in these last 59 weeks in the library? Yeah, and it's mostly me. But I do intend to observe and like to touch, riding around on the Threegle 3. It is a sustainable vehicle.
It's very ecologically
Exactly.
friendly. Yeah.
Exactly. And as the library's resident naturalist, I do intend to protect the wildlife in its own state.
Yeah, tell me what you find out about those hebdomaдаries, because they do kind of look weird, and
Yeah.
I'm a little bit worrisome. But as long as they don't do anything to the books or the shelves or the
I
raccoons,
don't know how they would. I mean, they don't have
they look kind of like they might crawl on top of one and
wobbling
absorb
around.
it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, which
Okay,
is kind
so
of
I'm just gonna
like worrisome,
observe these from a safe position where I don't harm them, and we'll just see. I mean, I'm just so delighted by the diversity of wildlife in your library.
I'm astonished by how you keep discovering these things that I never was aware of in the library. Maybe I'm just a little bit blissful when I'm just with my nose in a book and.
Yeah, and when you leave, which I haven't done in about 59 weeks.
That's your problem.
No, hey, there's only opportunities.
Right, very good.
So
Speaking of opportunities.
yeah, I'm probably not going to win a Segway Award for that one either. Speaking of opportunity, you might like to take the opportunity at this moment, if you look down at your podcasting device. Oh, this is how I should do it. This is how I should do it from now on.
Yeah?
If you look down at your podcast right now, you probably have the ability to set a star rating on the service
yes,
that you're
very good.
using. So give us a couple of stars and maybe leave a review for an episode that you haven't listened to yet, because that's sort of on the theme. So what do we have in store for our readers next week?
Right, next week's book is by Casper Kelly. More stories about spaceships and cancer.
You had me there for a second. That about covers it. Thank you for joining us at Cover My Ass, where baffling books are reviewed but not read by yours truly. My name is Kaki.
And I'm Kay, and remember, we only judge a book by its cover.
Judge a book by a cover. Oh, wow. It's been so... I keep forgetting that we're doing that together now. So, okay.
We've been doing that together for 59 weeks.
Well, we've been 59 weeks off and on. I mean, you were raccoons for a while, or I was doing this show with raccoons for a while. You were doing a lot of what we do on this podcast seems very unlikely.
Yeah, I don't know how this keeps happening.